Today, I want to talk about, I guess, a habit or something that we can do which throws us out of flow or alignment with truth, with our true nature. And I'm talking about this because I recently experienced this. I was, life has thrown some curveballs at me recently. About a couple of weeks ago, it was like few things were happening at once. And usually things happen and they rock me and I'm still able to sort of flow with life and just allow the experiences to be as they are. But I guess because of the intensity of what happened, it threw me into an old pattern, and I only just sort of realized what it was and was able to move out of that. Because, life is always going to throw things with us, and we're always going to make us feel certain ways. And it's not about being completely unaffected by anything that happens in life. I think it's flowing with just the human experience and allowing things to come up, allowing things to move, allowing things to process. But what I want to talk, the habit I want to point out is actually denial of how you are feeling. I was, for a couple of weeks, I was just in denial of how I was feeling, and I was trying to put on a front and not that I was overtly lying to people, but I was lying to myself. I was like, no, I'm fine. Like, I'm present. I am awareness. I am, there's no self, that sort of stuff. Just telling myself those sort of things. Everything's cool. And it's funny that, I was doing it and I was getting exhausted and tired. And I was like, why isn't, this stuff working? Why have I lost my peace? And what I realized, I lost my peace because I was in active denial of how I was actually feeling. And until I went, I'm actually really sad about everything that's happening, and I'm going to allow myself to be sad, even though it's not the prettiest to the mind's look to just be sad about stuff or be affected by things. When we're walking around and we're putting a wall up and, no, I'm not affected, I'm fine, and people ask, I'm sweet, like, I'm just on my craft, and and I think first you just got to admit to yourself, okay, I'm like, what am I? It's the energy nothing is flowing. It feels like to me, it was like I was having a tug of war with presence. I was, there's a point where presence flows naturally a lot of the time, but when you're having a tug of war with it, where you pull yourself present and then the mind pulls you out, and you pull yourself present and then the mind's pulling you out, and you just having to do that constantly, you're actually trying to use presence or true nature to cover up, or the peace from that to cover up how you're feeling inside. You're trying to repress it through bringing yourself back to true nature. And eventually I just realized it's like trying to force myself into presence, but I was running from how I was feeling in myself. I hope that made sense, because it's the energy of like a tug of war. I feel like I'm tugging against life. And when I was like, I'm actually sad, and I let go of the resistance, presence was able to just naturally be there as presence. But there was also, in this human form, a sadness, but not a resistance to it. And it's being in resistance to how you're feeling which causes problems. And that's with all emotions. Anger shame, guilt, all these things, if we're in active denial of these emotions, one, we aren't in flow with life, and two, eventually we repress them. Eventually they get stuck in the system and we feel numb and a bit bored and a bit brain foggy because we've just stuffed all this stuff down. And it starts with just like asking yourself a quick question, like, how am I actually feeling? You know, what's going on? And I think to me, there was a bit of, I guess, ego around always being at peace. And when I wasn't at peace, it was, I think, like, I don't know, when I was sad or hurt by what was going on, it was like, you know, a part of my identity, there was obviously some identity there as someone who doesn't get affected by things. And then and I was in resistance to that identity being challenged. But yeah, I was just going through it and I was like, what, you know, I think I'm sad. And then it was like all the resistance was gone, the sadness was allowed to be there and linger. But it was like, it's there and now it feels in flow, in harmony. So I guess the point of this video is, if you notice yourself in disharmony, you feel like you're having cognitive dissonance to how you want to be feeling and how you're actually feeling, and you're in some sort of denial, you just got to ask yourself as an inquiry question, how am I actually feeling right now? What am I not looking at? What am I denying within myself? Because spirituality isn't about just being in this blissful, peaceful state, just steady. It's a letting go of the thing that says reality should be a certain way. It's complete non-resistance to whatever is arising. It's acceptance of every moment so fully. And it just, you deeper and deeper, and there's a deeper layers of accepting this moment fully. And there's obviously other aspects to it. But at its core, I think it's just non-resistance to life. Because dropping resistance drops away identity. You know, there was obviously an identity in me which struggled with the fact that there was sadness arising. But stripping that away, remembering that we're human, and dropping, and non-resistance is in a sense no self. There's no identity, no little control that wants reality to be a certain way. It just moves through and it accepts life as it comes. And not a mental acceptance. It does act accordingly in the moment and how it should. But it doesn't wrestle or resist life, I guess, to put it in simple terms. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.